On December 11th, 2012, Jennifer Jen Ramsren was reported missing by her husband, Ganesh Remy Ramsren. Remy told authorities that Jen had left their home in New Berlin, New York, between 10 and 11 a.m. to go shopping in Syracuse, but never returned. Concerned about her unexplained absence, Remy called 911 and informed the dispatcher that Jen had not come back and none of their friends had heard from her. He emphasized how unusual this behavior was for his wife and said he was genuinely alarmed. The following day, while speaking with police at the station, Remy used the Find My iPhone feature in an attempt to locate Jen's phone. The app led him and officers to a rural roadside location about 20 miles outside of town, near South Plymouth. Officers searched the area but found nothing of significance. Later that same day, Remy visited the area again on his own, and this time found Jen's iPhone himself. He immediately called 911 to report the discovery. At this point, the case was still classified as a missing person investigation. However, doubts started to surface. 5 days after Jen's disappearance, her red Chrysler minivan was discovered abandoned in an apartment complex parking lot approximately 8 miles from her home. Inside the vehicle, investigators found spots of blood, raising the possibility of foul play. The search came to a devastating end on February 26, 2013, when Jen's naked body was discovered in a remote area. A medical examiner later confirmed her death was the result of a homicide. This marked a formal shift from a missing person case to an active murder investigation. Jennifer and Remy Ramsren were once viewed as the picture of a happy, stable couple. College sweethearts who had built a life together. They were raising 3 children in New Berlin, New York. To outsiders, there appeared to be a perfect life. But beneath the surface, the marriage was beginning to fracture. By 2012, emotional distance had grown between them, and both partners were seeking connection elsewhere. Jen had immersed herself in the online world of the role-playing game Kingdoms of Camelot. It was more than a hobby. It became a major part of her life. Within that virtual world, she developed a relationship with another player named Rob, who lived in England. Their interaction remained online, but provided Jen with companionship that seemed lacking at home. At the same time, Remy was keeping a much more dangerous secret. He was having an affair with Jen's closest friend, Eileen Sales. That relationship turned out to be crucial in the investigation. Detectives discovered that Remy and Sales had slept together just 1 day before Jen vanished. Sales would later admit that she intended to end the affair, but Remy had become upset and resistant to her decision. This revelation led investigators to reconsider Remy's behavior and potential motives. His decision to locate Jen's phone himself and his eagerness to speak to the media raised red flags. Combined with the affair, these elements became central to the growing suspicion surrounding Remy's role in Jen's disappearance. With Jennifer's body recovered and Remy's affair with Eileen Sales exposed, investigators began to take a much closer look at Remy's account of what happened on December 11th, 2012. From the beginning, he had claimed that after Jen left for a shopping trip to Syracuse, he went for a run. However, this alibi quickly began to unravel under investigation. Surveillance footage failed to support Remy's claimed route. There was no sign of him along the path he described, raising immediate concerns. Eventually, he was seen on camera arriving at a YMCA, but only later in the day. To detectives, it appeared calculated, an attempt to place himself somewhere public to create the illusion of a consistent timeline. The inconsistencies were enough to raise doubts, but the physical evidence would further weaken his story. A small spot of blood was found on the couple's mattress, and additional traces of blood were discovered on the sweatshirt Remy had worn the day Jen went missing. Investigators concluded that the most likely scenario was that Remy killed Jen at home, transported and dumped her body in a remote area, discarded her phone near a roadside, left a red minivan in an apartment complex parking lot, and then traveled on foot to the YMCA in an attempt to construct an alibi. On May 17th, 2013, Remy was arrested and formally charged with second-degree murder. Despite this, he continued to insist he was innocent. In an interview with Dateline, Remy stated that he had the perfect life, a wife, a girlfriend, children, and claimed he had no reason to harm Jen. Investigators, however, believed the evidence painted a very different picture. In 2014, Ganesh Remy Ramsran stood trial for the second-degree murder of his wife, Jennifer Ramsran. Prosecutors presented a narrative centered around motive, deception, and control. They argued that Remy had grown tired of his marriage and wanted to be free to pursue his affair with Eileen Sales. According to them, he viewed Jen as an obstacle to the life he desired and planned to remove her permanently. Among the most compelling testimony came from Remy's longtime best friend. He revealed that Remy had spoken about divorcing Jen and seemed confident he would receive custody of their children. This detail reinforced the prosecution's theory that Remy believed he could rebuild his life with Eileen without the constraints of his marriage. The state also emphasized the calculated nature of Remy's behavior after Jen's disappearance. His decision to find her phone himself and speak openly with the media appeared less like concern and more like an attempt to control the narrative. Physical evidence, including the bloodstains on the mattress and his sweatshirt, further supported the prosecution's version of events. The absence of a credible alibi also weighed heavily against him. Remy took the stand in his own defense. He insisted he was innocent and claimed he still loved both Jen and Eileen. He maintained that he had no reason to harm Jen and described his life before her death as perfect. But the jury was not persuaded. After evaluating the evidence and testimony, they found him guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 25 years to life in prison. The conviction marked what many believed was a final chapter in the case, yet further legal developments would soon reopen the story. In 2022, nearly a decade after his conviction, Ganesh Remy Ramsran's legal battle took an unexpected turn. A judge overturned his second-degree murder conviction, citing ineffective legal representation during the original trial. The spotlight fell on Gilberto Garcia, Remy's defense attorney, whose performance was deemed severely inadequate. Garcia, who had never tried a murder case before, reportedly relied on internet searches, using Google, to grasp basic forensic concepts central to the case. His lack of experience became even more evident when he failed to retain expert witnesses and neglected to properly prepare Remy for his testimony on the stand. Perhaps most damaging was Garcia's own closing argument, during which he admitted to the jury that he had questioned Remy's innocence 1,000,000 times. This admission, along with his uncoordinated courtroom strategy, played a key role in the judge's ruling to vacate the conviction. Remy's new defense attorney, David Hammond, pointed to Garcia's handling of the case as not only chaotic but prejudicial. He described the trial as a disaster, especially when Remy, unprepared and unsupported, faced intense cross-examination. Even Ben Bergman, the special prosecutor assigned to the case, agreed that a new trial was warranted. He stated that the legal deficiencies were unlike anything he had ever encountered. Still, Bergman continued to believe in Remy's guilt. He referenced newly discovered voicemails Jen left for an online acquaintance on the day she disappeared, messages that made no mention of a shopping trip. But with key witnesses like lead investigator Richard Cobb no longer alive, the road to a second trial was filled with complications. The reversal did not prove Remy's innocence. It only exposed critical flaws in the system that once convicted him. In 2023, Ganesh Remy Ramsran accepted a plea deal, avoiding the uncertainty of a second trial. He pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter in exchange for a 22-year prison sentence. His legal team considered the agreement strategic, calculating that with good behavior, Remy could be eligible for release in just 8.5 years. Though it marked the end of a long legal process, the plea raised new questions about justice, accountability, and Remy's true state of mind. Despite formally admitting guilt, Remy has never publicly accepted responsibility for Jennifer's death. In a televised Dateline interview following the plea, he made unsettling comments about life behind bars. Referring to prison as a place of freedom, he claimed it was a joke. He spoke freely about accessing cell phones and other contraband, describing an environment that defied public expectations of punishment. His tone was casual, even boastful, void of remorse. Remy's demeanor during the interview stunned many viewers. Journalist Andrea Canning, who conducted the interview, later described him as one of the most fascinating people she had ever met. Whether that fascination stemmed from his calculated denial, his emotional detachment, or a deeper sense of arrogance remains ambiguous. This final chapter of the case does not offer closure. Instead, it presents a disturbing paradox: a brutal crime followed by conviction, a confession, and yet a man who remains curiously unaffected. The justice system may have rendered its verdict, but emotional justice appears far less certain. Jennifer Ramsden was a mother of 3, a wife, and a daughter. Her life was cut short in a senseless act of violence that left deep scars on everyone who loved her. Her children were forced to grow up without their mother, and her family was left to grieve in the shadow of a complex and painful legal battle. What began as a missing person case evolved into a murder investigation, a high-profile trial, and ultimately, a plea deal that many viewed as a compromise of justice. Remy Ramsden, now serving time for manslaughter, remains a divisive figure. While prosecutors, investigators, and many who follow the case still firmly believe in his guilt, the reduction of the charge from murder to manslaughter left Jen's family with a sense that the justice system had failed to fully recognize the gravity of her death. His prison interviews, in which he minimized the severity of incarceration and denied responsibility, have only added to that pain. This case goes beyond a tragic crime within a family. It highlights broader concerns about legal competence, the integrity of investigations, and how plea deals can shift the public's perception of justice. The story of Jennifer Ramsden serves as a reminder of how fragile justice can be, even in cases with overwhelming evidence and strong suspicions. There is no neat conclusion here. Only loss, lingering questions, and a system that punished, but did not fully answer for a life destroyed.